Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom, welcome back. Today's Daf is Pesachim Kuf Yud Beis. We are 8 lines from the top of the Amid. Tana Rabbana, we learned in a Brisa. Again, we're going to pick up on the topic of Shedim, Ruchos, Ro'os, etc. And as we're going to learn a bit later, actually at the conclusion of today's Daf, the Chachamim, they accomplished a great feat. They chased away the Shedim for the most part. They banished them from civilized areas, from populated areas, from Yishuv, and sent them out to uninhabited areas. As you learn in Gemara Brachos, the Shedim are primarily found in ruins and churvos, uninhabited areas. So generally speaking, we don't really concern ourselves nowadays with these concerns of Shedim and Mazikim, but nevertheless, these are eternal concepts, part of Torah, and we learn it. Tana Rabban, L'yishta Adam Mayim. One should refrain from drinking water. Rashbam says, without a nair, meaning if it's dark. There's a concern that perhaps there are some Shedim, some evil spirits present and attracted to that water. Don't interfere with them. Don't drink that water. Lo yishta adam mayim. So if it's dark, that's one concern. But it has to be specifically on certain nights. Lo b'leili reviyos, not on Tuesday nights. V'lo b'leili shabbos, so on Friday nights, when the shade of the mazikim are present on water. As we're going to see later on, the Gemara, why specifically those 2 nights. In any case, if it's the wrong time, and also dark. We learned yesterday the mazikim are attracted to darkness. They identify with the concept of absence and negativity. So they're attracted to darkness, and it's one of those 2 nights, Tuesday nights or Friday nights. Refrain from drinking that water. V'im shasa. If he proceeds and drinks, he disregards this sakana damai b'roshai. He is held accountable for any consequence which follows. Mipnei sakana. This is on account of danger. My sakana, what danger? Ruach ra, evil spirits. V'yitzach. Suppose this fellow is thirsty and he's desperate. My takante. What is the solution? What should he do? Neima Shiva Koilos Shomar David Alamayim. He should recite these 7 Koilos. These are the Psukim that we say during Kabbalah Shabbos, which contains 7 references to the word Koil. Marsha explains these are 7 powers of Kedusha which banish the Koiches Hara, which counteract the effect of the Ruchos Rois. He should say the Shiva Koilos Shomar David Alamayim. So these are the 7 koilos. The first one being the koil Hashem alamayim, and that's why the Gemara calls it 7 koilos Shomar David alamayim, even though technically it's only the first one which is alamayim. So explains the Marsha. He should say these 7 koilos of Hadar Nishta and then proceed to drink Shenema. So these psukim he should say koil Hashem alamayim, Eil hakaved hiram Hashem alamayim rabim, koil Hashem bakoyach, koil Hashem behadar, koil Hashem shevei arazim, vayishaber Hashem es arze alvonoin. Koil Hashem chitzev lahavais eish, Koil Hashem yochel midbar, yochel Hashem midbar kadosh, Koil Hashem yochel layolois, vayechsev ye'orois, uveichaloy kuloi oimer kavod. And this will address the ruchos rois, will mitigate the concern. V'iloi, suppose this is not an option, he doesn't know the psukim by heart, or as some say, not meant to say psukim from Tersh B'chsav, not meant to say it by heart. Whatever the concern is, we give him another option. V'iloi, if this doesn't work, Nei Mahachi, you should say the following. It's a chant, it's a lachash, which will nullify the kayach of the ruach. You should say as follows: Lul shafan anigroin anirdifi. Perhaps he's addressing he's calling them by their names. Lul shafan anigroin anirdifi bein koich v'yasivna. I sit between stars. Perhaps this is a reference to Klal Yisrael, who are nimshal kechavim. We're beyond reach. We're beyond your influence. Bein Bli'i Shemini Azilna. I go between Bli, these are skinny people, Shmini, large, fat people. So I reside I'm between these people, and as the Rashbam says, look, pick your choice. You have a variety of people to choose from. Choose them, and Hanichuni, let me be. Viloy, if this is an option for him, perhaps he's concerned about getting involved with chanting to shade him. So you have another option. If there's another fellow with him, then he should go and wake him up. And he should address that fellow by name. Planya bar Planta. This fellow was Ruven ben Leah. So Planya bar Planta, Ruven ben Leah. Tzachina mayam, I'm thirsty for water. This way he makes a scene. It makes it pretty obvious that it's just more than one person there. In which case the mazikim step back. And then he'll drink. Viloy, if this doesn't work, if there's nobody there with him, what should he do? Mekarkish nachtama. The nachtama is the lid of the barrel. He should take the lid and bang it, achatzma, on that barrel. This way he makes a ruckus. Rashi now, the Zohar explains, it sounds like there's it's happening, it's a scene, and it sounds like there's more than one person. And this way the mazikim keep away. Gemara Brachos tells us that when there are two people, the mazikim back off. So here he makes a sound, he makes a noise, vadanishti, and then he'll drink. Viloy, if this doesn't work, if this is not an option, nishti bamidi, you should simply toss some ingredient into the water, vadanishti, and then drink. Continues the Gemara, Tanu Rabbana, lo yishta adam mayim, loy min hanaharos, v'loy min ha'agamim balayla. This apparently applies to any night throughout the week. He should refrain from drinking water from a river, or from an agam, some pond or lake, from out in the open. Now apparently, because it's out in the open, it's coming from an uninhabited area, the shade and the mazikim are prevalent there. They're there even if it's not Tuesday or Friday. On any night throughout the week, keep away from that water. And of course, it would seem from the Rashbam, that's strictly when it's dark. So in darkness, he shouldn't drink. If he drank damei b'roshei, he is punished for any consequence that occurs because he should have kept away. He should have taken care. Because of sakana. My sakana, what danger is inherent in this? Sakana's shavriri. Rashbam says shavriri sanverim mitargimin on Cain. The pasuk by Sdoim that the malachim, they inflicted sanverim on the people of Sdoim, and the Targum says shavriri. It's a certain form of blindness. So one who partakes in this water, he can be affected by the ruchos rois and experience shavriri. But if he's desperate and thirsty, my takante, what should he do? If he has another fellow with him, Leimelei should turn to that person and address him. Planya bar Planta, Ruven ben Leah, Sachina Maya, I'm thirsty for water. And this way he'll be protected from the mazik. Viloi, if that's not an option, Nemo ilu nafshei, he should address himself by name. Planya, his name is Ruven. He should say, Ruven, Amra li imi, my mother told me, is dire mishavriri. Take great care, precaution from this shavriri power. And it continues and keeps on shortening the name as he goes along. Is dire mishavriri, be careful from shavriri, this power. Shavriri, biriri, riri, yari, ri. So he broke it down to the last syllable, and by doing so he weakens the power of the ruach ra. So chinamaya, and he concludes, I'm thirsty for water because chivri, in white earthenware kaisos, and the Rashbam says this is really also addressing the mamuna, the ruach ra who's in charge of the kaisos shel cheres. So basically it's all in one. I'm thirsty for this water which is in a kaisos shel cheres. By doing so he sort of grants some credence and recognition to the ruach ra. You're in charge of the kaisos shel cheres, and now let me have some. And this is a takana, some sort of chant, which will negate the power and influence of the Rachra, and now he's safe to drink. Continues the Gemara. Va'afilu min atamchay. Let's go back to our Mishnah, back on the Tzadik Tesamad Beis. One is meant to have 4 kaises shal yayin, even an ani, and the Gaboy Tzedakah should make sure that anybody that's being supported by public funds should be given 4 kaises shal yayin, v'leyivchasu lim'arba kaises shal yayin, va'afilu min atamchay. The Rashbam explains there, tamcha is this daily food collection, which was distributed to those poor people who were really destitute. They didn't even have 2 meals worth to their name. So even this fellow that's being sustained from tamcha, he must make sure to have 4 kaises shal yain for the seder. Says Pshita, of course. What's the chiddush? Why would I think otherwise? Why would I think that the fellow from the tamchay, the poor man, should not be chayiv and da'al kaises? Says the Gemara, lo nitzrucha ella afilu Rabbi Akiva. The chiddush here is, even according to Shittas Rabbi Akiva, the Amar, who generally tells us when it comes to Shabbos, asay Shabbos chayil, a person should be prepared to conduct himself on Shabbos like he does during the weekday when it comes to mealtime. Rather do that than come on to public assistance, rather than depend on the public funds for your sustenance. So if you have enough for just basic needs to keep yourself, for just to supply your basic Shabbos needs, as though it would be a weekday meal, that's okay. Even though there's a great mitzvah of kavod Shabbos, to have delicacies and tanugim, the kavod Shabbos, but none of it means going and collecting tzedakah for yourself and relying on public funds. If you have enough for your basic needs, even if it looks like a weekday at home, that's fine. And that's Rabbi Akiva, who says, generally speaking, a person is meant to conduct himself in that manner. Let it be chayil, but don't resort to public assistance. However, when it comes to the dalat kaises of Pesach, that's different. Mishum persumanisa moidi. Dalat kaises contain a unique element of persumanis. You drink them by the seder, when you say the Haggadah. It's publicizing the Nesev Yitzis and Shrine. That has the additional element of persumanisa, and therefore, in this case, you're meant to go to great lengths to acquire dalat kaises, even if it means obtaining public assistance, resorting to the tzedakah funds, or as the Rashbam actually tells us in the Mishnah, back on Daf Salek Tes, even if it means selling one's garment or borrowing money, hiring out oneself for some work to earn money for the dalat kaises. Tana dveil yo, afal bisha amar Akiva. Although Akiva tells us, generally a person is meant to suffice with the bare minimum, even on Shabbos, rather than depending on public funds. Means like this, even though he's going to resort to bare minimum, he's going to have a weekday meal. He knows he can't afford a lavish Shabbos meal experience. But it's not all or nothing. A davar muat, just a little something, l'kavod Shabbos, some minor delicacy. He should exert great effort, cut corners, tighten the budget to somehow be able to obtain a davar muat. Now the Chavetz Chaim Mishabura points out the Gemara does not mean to go collecting for that. Meaning, if a person is already depending on public assistance, we're meant to supply him with all his Shabbos need. Give him that full Tamcha Shabbos package with everything that he needs. But if a person is self-supported, for the most part, he's self-sustained, he doesn't need to resort to tzedakah, then he's not meant to go resort to public funds to get some kavod Shabbos. But he should do all in his ability to try to cut corners and tighten that belt, tighten the budget to be able to obtain some sort of davar mu'at to covet Shabbos. My ninu, what's an example of a davar mu'at, of a delicacy, which suffices? A kasa da harsana, a container of harsana. This was this fried fish, this breaded, this fish with flour, which suffices, at the bare minimum, suffices for your Shabbos, for your covet Shabbos. Kedisnan, as we know, we learned in the Mishnah, we all know the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda ben Omer. Havi az kanomar. A person is meant to be brazen like a leopard. Explains the Rashbam, very nice Rashbam, 12 lines from the top. Havi az kanomar, what's the point of mentioning that here? Says the Rashbam, is chazek b'mitzvahs. Exert yourself when it comes to fulfillment of mitzvahs. Yoser, even beyond your abilities. You think you can't handle it? No, push yourself further, beyond your limits, and try to go ahead and mekayim the covet Shabbos, even at a bare minimum. Get yourself something, some delicacy. Well, because of the harsana work then, today, whatever it works for you, whatever's considered a covet Shabbos. The Mishnah continues, Havi as kenomer, v'kal kanesha, light like an eagle, rotz katzvi, Bizaris run like a deer, v'gibo kari, strong like a lion, lases return avichash v'shamayim, to fulfill Hashem's ratzon. Masha points out that we have 4 separate categories here. Az kanomer, kal kanesha, rotz katzvi, gibo kari, which correspond to 4 impediments, 4 things which, 4 limitations, which tend to hold back a person from reaching his true capacity. He says, number 1, ani is poverty. Now, poverty can mean monetary poverty, monetary limitations. It could also mean a person's limited in his ability, his talents. We have number 2, a person's mazel. We know that everybody has a mazel, some sort of course which was charted for him by Hashem, so to speak, a mazel. And that sort of sets a limit on him. We have the surrounding culture, the goyim and all that they have to offer, which interferes greatly with our pursuit of ruchnius. And we have the internal impediments, the Yetzer Hara, which drives us in all directions. Says the Maharsha, Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema is coming to counter that. Have you asked Kanama, brazen like a lion, like a leopard? Go beyond your abilities, your financial or your otherwise your talents, your limitations. Go beyond, push beyond the limits. Kal kanesha. A nesher soars in the shamayim. That's a reference to the mazel. Your spiritual, so-called spiritual limitations, which you think you have, which perhaps you do. But you can rise beyond your mazel. That's a chiddush in the Maharsha. A person could change his mazel. We find by Avram Avinu. He pushed and pushed until he changed his mazel. He changed his spiritual being. And now his capacity got bigger. And he had greater potential. Kal kanesher, be light like a nesher. Push beyond your mazel. Don't be threatened by that limited mazel. Rotz katzvi, run like a deer. Beyond the interferences that the hosting cultures present for us, the goyim and all that they have to offer. And Regiba Kari, that's the internal Yetzer Hara, which sets barriers in front of us. And the Gibor here is the Ezu Gibor HaKovish Es Yitzra, overcome external and internal limitations. Lases, Ritzain Avichash Vashamayim. Those are the words of the Maharsha. Continues the Gemara, Tanur Rabbanon, Shiva Dvarim, Tziva Rabbi Akiva, Es Rabbi Yeshua Benai. Rabbi Akiva provided 7 life instructions to Rabbi Yeshua, his son. B'nai, my son, Al Teishev B'goyva Shel Ir V'Tishna. Don't sit in the heights of the city. Rashbam explains, in a busy area, don't sit in the middle of Times Square. V'Tishna and pull out a Gemara and start learning. It's too distracting. V'al Tadur Be'ir Shirasheh Tamid Chachamim. Don't dwell in a city which is headed by Tamid Chachamim, which is administered by Tamid Chachamim. They're busy learning. This city is meant to be run by individuals who are administrators, who run the garbage, run City Hall. Of course, they take their directive from Talmidei Chachamim, but the actual hands-on people should be just administrators and not Talmidei Chachamim. V'al tikanos lebeischa pisaim. One shouldn't suddenly enter his home. Perhaps they're involved in tznius matters. Let yourself be heard prior to entry. A light knock on the door and then go in. Kol shkein lebeis chavarecha. Certainly when it comes to entering your friend's home. V'al timna min alim raglecha. Don't withhold shoes from your feet. Rashbam brings, it's a gnai for a person, certainly a Talmud Chacham, who's meant to present himself respectfully, to go barefoot. Of course, in those lands where it was derech to do so, that it's fine, but otherwise, it's a gnai, degrading. The Chidah explains, since the Chet of Adam Arisha, we know the Adama had a klala, arura Adama Varecha, by directly interacting with the Adama. It's degrading, the Avel, a person who's in mourning, is called Mizgoylel Ba'afra. He's mired in his afar and the dirt. It's not something respectful, and it's not something a person should do. He should always have something on his feet. In fact, he says the Makkah HaMikdash had the opposite effect, because it was Arar turned into Kadesh, it was into Baruch, it was transformed into Kedusha, and the afar there, the Eretz there, is actually Kadesh. And that's why we find the Kohanim were specifically meant to walk barefoot on the floor of the Beis Hamikdash. We find by Moshe Rabbeinu, Shalna Recha, Mal Raglecha, Ka'makam Asher Ta'omer Lov, Ad Mas Kodeshu. In holy area, a person is meant to connect to directly. In any case, generally speaking, don't go barefoot. Hashkim ve'echol. One should get up early and have breakfast. Don't skip breakfast. Bekayitz b'nei in summertime, to protect oneself from the effect of heat. Ubachayrev b'nei atzina, in the winter time on account of cold. Rashbam brings a pasuk how breakfast has a very positive, very strong positive effect on the health of a person, protects him from illness. As we learned earlier, rather turn your Shabbos into a weekday experience than becoming dependent on public funds. Go seek to have an association im adam with a person whose hour is smiling to him, a person who's experiencing success. Go have what to do with him. Perhaps you'll share in his success. It doesn't mean to purchase from him, or to sell him, because if he's a successful person, he'll wipe you out in business. Rather, to create a partnership with him. Don't deal with him directly, just be his partner. This way you'll have a part in his success. However, now that Shlomo Yitzchak told us, what is the pshat in the pasuk in Iyov Ma'aseh Yadav Beirachta? You have given bracha to his handiwork. We learn from there, even one who takes a pruta, just a coin from Iyov, in that coin is embedded bracha, which gets transferred to the recipient. Now, if that's the case, let's go back to what we said. A person who's experiencing success, go associate with him, go interact in a business way with him as well. Even to purchase from him, to sell him, that's also beneficial, because any interaction with him, selling him and getting his money, or perhaps buying from him and taking some of his products, any sort of receiving from him, that item contains bracha and is advisable. Chamisha dvarim tziva Rabbi Akiva es Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai kshayachavish ve'sasur. We know that Rabbi Akiva, the Gemara Brachas tells us, he was imprisoned due to the fact that he was teaching Torah publicly in spite of the Gzeira of the Romans. The Gemara tells us in Eruvin, we have some stories of his prison experience. In fact, he was Moser Nefesh to keep the mitzvahs, even mitzvahs to Rabban. The Gemara in Eruvin tells us that they used to bring him in some water every day, and one day it was a small amount, and he insisted on using it for Netilas Yadayim rather than for his own personal use. I believe the Gemara Yevamis was an Aguna, so Rabbi Shua came and called out to Rabbi Akiva, and he asked him the Shaila, and he got an answer. But it seems that this story in Al Gemara here took place in the perhaps in the earlier phase of his imprisonment, which wasn't so. he wasn't placed under such severe conditions, and they still had access to him. So he was visited by Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yochai. And we learn like this: Chamisha Dvaram Tziva Rabbi Akiva. The following 5 things Rabbi Akiva instructed as Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yochai. Ksheyechavesh Beis Asurim, when Rabbi Akiva was in prison and jail. Amalai. Rabbi Shimon turned to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi, Lamdeini Torah. I'd like you to teach me Torah, in spite of the decree of the Romans. Amar Einim Lamdecha. No, I'm not teaching you. It's a sakana. Amalai. Rabbi Shimon responded, really? Imein Ata Lamdeini. If you don't teach me, Ani Omer. Try to blackmail him. Ani Omer Li'Yochai Abba. I'm going to tell my father Yochai about this. He'll hand you over to the authorities. Asked him, Marsha, what do you mean? He was already in prison. So he says he's going to add to his charge sheet. He's going to tell them that he committed some more crimes, and this way he'll be given a more severe sentence. So he tried to twist his arm. Teach me Torah. Amar Lai Rabbi Akiva responded, look, you don't have to convince me to teach you Torah. B'nei, my son, Yoiser mima she'egel roitzelina. You meant to know that more, it's a mashal, even more than the egel and the calf wants to suckle. Para roitzelahonik, the mother cow certainly wants to nurse. And this is a mashal to himself. You know, you want to learn from me. If anybody wants, it's me. I want to teach you even more than you want to learn from me. Beautiful word from the Mashgiach Amir, Yerucham Levavitz. He says, don't think. It means the parah wants to unload the heavy burden of the milk, which is painful for the parah. And the teacher likewise wants to unload his burden. He wants to find a receiver, a sounding board for his Torah. Chas v'shalom. That's not what he meant. Just as the mother parah, due to her maturity and motherly love, she feels for the child. She has that feeling of achrayus, of responsibility to care for that child, which supersedes the desire of the calf to nurse from her. Likewise, the Rebbe, he feels for the Talmud. He's a chain in the Masorah. He feels that spiritual need, that spiritual quest to transmit the Torah given to him. So if anybody wants, it's me. You don't have to convince me to teach you Torah. If that's the case, Rabbi Shimon responded, Umi basakana. So what are you worried about? Who's in danger? I'm in danger. The egel, the calf. So why are you hesitating? Teach me Torah. I'm not worried about myself. So he somewhat acquiesced. He relented somewhat. Well, the compromise. He didn't actually teach him Torah, but he gave him some, I assume, Torah-based life advice. And so it was veiled Torah cloaked in life instructions. And he told him as follows: 5 things. Amarlai, in bikashta lichanik, a mashal. If a person wants to, if you want to hang yourself, he told a bilan gadol. If you want to choke yourself, hang yourself on the highest, the tallest tree. What is this a mashal to? If a person wants to convey a halacha, a message to others, and he knows that not necessarily going to take them, they're going to take him seriously, what should he do? He should attribute that lesson to an Adam Gadol. So, this is in the name of, this is the tzaddik. This way, they'll take him seriously. Tremendous chiddush. It's not meant to be used liberally. It's not an open license, but in a time of need, we find this actually in the Gemara. The Gemara in Eruvin speaks about something which was said in the name of Rabbi Yossi, because they knew that's the only way it's going to be received properly. We had a Gemara elsewhere, many times in Shas, that they would say something Mishmei de Rabbim, as though it was a shita espoused by the majority. This way, the recipients will relate to it differently and be makabel it. That's one pshat. The Rashbam actually learns a bit differently. He says, if you want people to listen to you, go sit by a Rebbe. Go be a Talmud of a Rebbe. Then you have what to say in his name. Continues the Gemara. So that's the first thing he told him. Number 2, when you teach your son Torah, lamdeu b'sefer mukah. Teach him from a properly edited sefer. Mahi. What stage of teaching we're speaking about? Amarav v'temar b'sharshia b'chadata. when the youngster begins to learn, that's going to be his first run, his first impression of that Torah that you're teaching him. Make sure it's properly formulated, coming from a properly edited sefer without mistake. Why the shabashta? Because an error, kivan de al, once it goes in, it stays in. It's very difficult to extract it and to set it straight. Therefore, make sure when you begin learning with your child that it's done properly. Number 3, another mashal, don't cook, don't use the same pot as your friend. Don't cook in a pot which your friend used. What is this referring to? Grusha b'chay bala, a divorced woman in the lifetime of her former husband. Because this can create a concern in a person. The point here is that be careful, meaning anticipate the potential challenge involved in doing this. And marrying a grusha. Amar, as the Gemara tells us, Gersh, a divorcee, Shanas a grusha, who marries a divorced woman, Arba deus b'mita. You can have 4 minds, so to speak, in the mita. Rashbam explains, because one couldn't be naturally drawn to his former spouse. So instead of just 2 in the mita, you have actually 4. And the point here is to anticipate this before entering into a relationship with a Gersh, with a grusha. And this allows them to prepare themselves to adapt properly and to have a successful marriage. Viba is ema. Another version of what he said was afilu ba'almana. Take care, even with regards to marrying an almana, lefi she'ein kol etzbois shabbos. Rashbam says etzbai is a reference to the Eivra Tashmish. Not all are created equal, so not all experiences are alike, and perhaps even when it comes to marrying a widow, it will be different than the former experience, and perhaps it's not as compatible as it was, which can perhaps create some difficulty there. And once again, a person should anticipate the situation and take care to make sure everything is going well and satisfied, and the marriage will be successful. Continues the Gemara. Mitzvah v'guf gadol. What is that? A person can accomplish a mitzvah and still gain monetarily. Guf gadol, Rashi says, sheyigdol amaycha, to get profit. How do you do that? A mitzvah with profit? Alamailus, yes, ruchnis, has gashmis. How's that? Oichel peris v'lo yischar. Rashbam explains. He lends him $1 million and uses the karka as a collateral, but he strikes the following deal. He says, look, I'm going to work this field for the next 10 years and use the payers, the produce, which the field generates, to deduct the loan, deduct the total of the debt. Now, obviously, everybody's gaining here. The Levi gets his money and he can use it for whatever he needs, and the Malva, the one who lent the money, he gets a good deal as well, because the payers which he consumes, of course, he receives at a cut rate deal, cut rate price. So he gets payers, eichel payers. V'loi sachar. Maharsha explains, the schar does not get deducted, meaning the schar mitzvah remains. So he gets some secondary hana from the mitzvah. He gets payers cheaply, but the actual schar mitzvah remains eternally. Continues the Gemara, mitzvah v'guf tar. A person should engage in a mitzvah v'guf tar. What does that mean? Marry early, noise isha, marry a isha early, which will ensure that the guf is tar, person is spiritually clean, v'loi banim, and have children. Arba dvarim tziva Rabbeinu HaKadosh Esbana, the following 4 things were instructed by Rabbeinu HaKadosh to his son. Al tader b'shachnetziv. Don't live in this town, Shachnetziv. Why? Mishum dileitzani haba. Because they're frivolous people, they're leitzanim. Umashchu lecha beleitzanusa. They'll draw you into the leitzanis. Rambam says a person is influenced by his environment. Keep away from that area. V'al teishev al mitas aramis. Take care not to sit on a bed of a non-Jewish woman. What does this mean? We have several pshat. Some explain as follows. Lo signi but like Krishma. Don't go to sleep without saying Krishma, as the Goyim do. Now, why is he expressing it in this manner? Don't sit on a mitas aramis. So the Farshim explained, because the point of saying Krishma al Amita is to keep the mazikim away. If he's not careful to say Krishma, then his bed is full of these these powers. It's like a goyish bed. It's full of ruche shed mazikim. So take care to say Krishma before sleeping. V'ika da'amri, some explain as follows. What does he mean? Al teishav al mitas aramis deloy tinsav giyurta. Don't marry a giyuris. Rashbam brings a Gemara Sanhedrin. A ger will still maintain that sensitivity and affinity to his nation up until the 10th generation. He's not meant to embarrass, to degrade a goy in his presence, because he still somewhat deep down identifies with them. Therefore, the instruction here is don't marry giyuris, because it's risky. Now, one fellow in the shir tonight mentioned a story that happened with an Adam Gadol. Somebody approached a Adam Gadol. He had a shidduch, a giyuris. What should he do? Should he proceed? And the tzaddik asked him, look, are you able to be, are you capable of being extra sensitive towards her? It's always good to be sensitive to one's wife, but a bit of extra care. She's a giyuris. She's soft-hearted, vulnerable. Are you capable of doing that? And he said, yeah, I think I am. So he said, okay, go ahead and marry her. So the point again is to be careful, just as we spoke about the gurish, the grusha, the almana, the giyuris. One must know in advance, what the what's involved there, and be prepared accordingly. Says in Rabbi Yehuda Amri, our mois mamish. The third pshat here is don't actually sit on a bed that belongs to a non-Jewish woman. Why? On account of that story that happened with Rav Papa, as follows. So he lent her money. Rav Papa lent this Goyish woman money. It came time to collect his debt. He came to the house, and she offered him a seat. She says, sit down on the bed. The way Rashi in Brachas brings the story, he refused to sit down. He actually checked underneath, and he found a dead child. She set him up. This was the first blood libel in history. She set him up with a dead child underneath the bed. She figured she'll sit him down, then she'll attribute the child's death to her papa, and she'll be free of her debt to him. So he took care of his smart man. He was careful not to sit down, and they found the dead child beneath the bed. The Rashbam here learns that actually happened. He sat down, he got killed, and he had to run away. In any case, on account of that story, be careful before you sit down on a bed of a armois, of a non-Jewish woman. V'al tavrich atzvach min hameches. Don't cheat the taxman. Farshim point out that we're speaking even when it is halachically permitted, perhaps when the moiches here and the taxman is an extortionist, he's not following rules, in which case halachically you can avoid him, but it's still not a good idea. Why? Dilma mishkachalach, perhaps they'll catch up with you, they'll find you, v'shakli minach, call this, they'll take everything away from you, they'll penalize you for evading taxes. And don't stand in front of an ox when he comes up from the swamp after he had a good meal, because he's delirious and he can get excited and harm. Because the satan is dancing between his horns. Rishram says satan lavdavka just means he's in a heightened state of mood and he can inflict harm. Omer Rabbi Shmuel, Bishar Shachar, speaking specifically about a black ox, Ubiyaminisan, during springtime, when the new grass is growing and he's all in a good mood and can get overexcited and inflict harm. Tani Rav Oishi, Marchikin Mishartam, Chamishim Amma. From a innocent shur, meant to keep away 50 Amma. Mishar Mu'at, from a shur who's known to gore, Kimlai Einav, as far as I can see. Tana Bishmeid Rabbi Meir, Reish Tura B'Dekula. He meant to take extra precaution to this extent. Reish Tura B'Dekula, when the head of the Tur of the ox is still embedded in his basket, his food basket, run away. Sakli Igru, go up to the attic, go up to the roof, v'shadi darga metusach, and remove the stepladder from beneath you. Just an expression meaning take extra precaution to the nth degree, keep away from these oxen. Amarav. Here comes a fascinating Gemara. Amarav. Nizza de Torah, the chant, the cry that you meant to do by him for an ox, to spur him on to his work, or as Rashbam says, to protect oneself from harm, from the ox harming him. What's the chant? Hein, hein. Nizza de Ari. What's the chant for the lion? Zeze. Nizza de Gamla for the camel. Dodo. Nizza de Arba is to drag the ship through the river, so the fellows would walk alongside the river and drag the ship with the ropes. So how do we get them going? Hilni haya hillav hilluk huya. The Ur Samech has a fascinating pshat in Al Gemara. He says the Rebbe is like this. We find a distinction between the animals, where it's just a single syllable chant. Hein, hein, dada. When it comes to people, it's more complicated. It's more elaborate. Hilni haya. So he says like this. The remez is to avoid this Hashem. We all have animalistic urges within us. And we have intellectual confusing moments. Whether it comes to Amun and B'tachan. So he says, we address these two things very differently. When it comes to our animalistic desires, a person is meant to adopt a very short and to the point refrain. If one is an habitual liar, for instance, sheker, that's all. Don't get into details. Speak straight to the point. To the animal, zeh zeh, hein hein. You don't have to reason with him. But when it comes to dealing with the intellect, he says it's very different. It's like the people pulling the arba, the ship. We're dealing with people who are intellectual beings. Then you have to present your argument with depth and clarity from all different angles. You can't just come across current to the point. Do this. Doesn't work. Intellect has to be addressed intellectually and properly. So that's when it comes to the animals. The nefesh habahamis within the person, just be curt to the point. He has a kedusha issue, just say kedusha. That's it. He has a sheker issue, sheker. Don't have to reason with him. When it comes to mind and intellect, yeah, that requires depth and broadness and the richness of the intellectual engagement. Continues the Gemara. Amar Abaye, we have several items which can bring about tzaras. Oyer, the Gemara soon will explain. Leather, dog, a fish, v'kois, a cup, cham and hot water, ubeitzim, eggs, v'kinim levanim, and white louse. Kulon koshon davar achar. All these things can result in tzaras. The Gemara will explain. Oyer, what was the first item? Leather. Man de gani amashcha de tzala. One who sleeps on mashcha, that's hide, which was as yet unprocessed. Tzala was the tanner. So we're speaking about unprocessed hide. Now I'm going to sleep on it. Dog, what's wrong with that? That's a shibuta b'yami Nisan. He eats this shibuta dog during Nisan time. What is the kais? Shiyurei kasa de harsana. We spoke about the kasa de harsana before, that type of breaded fish. So the leftovers of that dish is unhealthy. Chamin, what is that? Chamimi de chamimi mishadri. One has the habit of rinsing himself with extra hot water. That's not healthy. Beitzim, what is that? Eggs. Mandamadrach aklipim, one who steps on eggshells. Kinam levanim, white lice. What is that? Mandamachver levushe, one who cleanses, he washes his clothing from the lice. V'leinoter leitzmana yomei, and before waiting 8 days, he already re-wears those clothing v'had lavushla, and wears the beged again. It's too early. Bar yanhanach kinim, these kinim can rejuvenate and reappear. V'koshen davar acher, and it can lead to tzaras. Unfortunately, say it's not so applicable. But we don't really have lice. Our washing system is more effective. Amar Papa, Beisa de is Beishunra, a house which has a cat living there. Loineil ba'inish, Below Masani. A person should take care not to enter this home without shoes. My time, and why? Because it is the nature of a cat to kill snakes. He'll eat a snake. Inside a snake, there is contained garmiktini, small, minute-sized bones. Now, once he has his meal and there are bones lying all over, garma, the chivya akari. If it so happens that he walks on barefoot, and a garma the chivya, this small-sized bone of the snake, will get embedded akari in his foot, it won't come out, and will place him in danger. So a house with a cat is dangerous. Some have a different version. Beisa, the last Beis Shun, a house without a cat, that's dangerous. A person should not enter there in darkness. My time. Perhaps, due to the fact that there's no cat there to clean out the snakes, perhaps a snake will wrap himself around this fellow, and he won't realize, and will be placed in danger. Gimel Dvarim Tziva Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yossi es Rebbe. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yossi taught three things to Rebbe. Al ta'asmum ba'atzmacha. Don't inflict a wound upon yourself. What is this referring to? Lo tahavelach dina b'hadiklasa. Don't have a din Torah against three people, because they'll gang up on you and they'll win. Dechad havi bal dinach. Perhaps they'll make a deal amongst themselves. One of them will become the litigant, the baldin, utrei sahadi, and the other two fellows will present themselves as witnesses, and they'll win the case. Therefore, take care not to litigate with three people. Don't negotiate on merchandise and you have no money to purchase that item today. It's unfair to the seller, because by taking that used car for a drive when you're not interested in buying it today, well, that dissuades others from sticking around, and he'll lose his deal. Continues the Gemara. Ishtcha tavla, when your wife was toiled from her tumah, al tezakik la laila harishon. That first night, don't have tashmish. Amarav ubenida darais. We're speaking during the time when they were following the strict din daraisa. Today we know an isha sees dam, she's meant to keep 7 clean days. But in those days, if an isha saw dam for the first 7 days, that night she's toiled and she's tar. So that first night, when she had seen that day, he should refrain, should keep away. Why? Since she has established the source of dam, she had seen dam that very day, there's a concern perhaps it'll resurface. Perhaps it's going to extend into the meziva, which followed the menida, and she'll see again. Therefore, keep away the first night, and then you're out of the woods. Shloisha dvarim tziva Rabbi Yehuda Rebbe. Rabbi Yehuda told Rebbe 3 things. Al teitzi yichid b'layla. Don't go out yourself at night for concern of encountering the mazik. Val tamid b'fnei ner orim. Don't stand undressed in front of a candle. It means close to the candle. It's a lack of tznius. Val tkanes lemerchatz chadash. Don't go into a new bathhouse. Shema tifachis. Perhaps the floor will collapse beneath you and place you in danger. First, make sure the merchatz is structurally sound, and then you'll use it. Ad kama, until what point is it considered a new merchatz? Amashom alevi ad yubeis chodesh, until 12 months. After that, it's safe and secure, and you can use it. Val tamoid b'fnei ner orim. The Gemara goes back to that halacha. Don't stand in front of a ner orim. The sani ha'omed b'fnei ner orim have a nichve. You can get this physical, this ailment, this illness called this nichve, become a nichve. This is epilepsy. Likewise, a person is meshamish mitasin in front of a ner. This is brought in halacha. Having lebanim nichvin, his children will experience this illness, this epilepsy. Tanarabban hameshamish mitasin al mita shetinoik yoshin aleh. A person is meshamish on a bed where there's a teenage present. On that bed, this condition will afflict that teenage. This is only concerned if the child is less than a year old. If he's already a year old, less lamba, the concern doesn't apply. It's only concerned if the child is sleeping towards the legs of the person who's mishamish. But he's lying towards his head, less lamba, There's no concern. The concern only applies if this fellow who's being mishamish doesn't place his hand on the child. But if he places his hand on him, there's no concern. Let's go back to the instructions which were given to Rebbe. Why is that a concern? Don't go out yourself at night. One should not go out himself at night. On Tuesday nights, or on Friday nights. So apparently that's what he's referring to. Because only on those nights do we have a concern about the presence of the Sheidim and the Mazik. Agras bas Machlas. Agras bas Machlas was the head of the Sheidim. Agras, the daughter of Machlas. Mashal says a fascinating thing. Machlas here is the wife of Esav. She was a Risha, and she bore the Sheidim and Mazikim. So she's the matriarch of the Sheidim. They relate back to the Baba. Agras bas Machlas, he, so she herself, Ushmoine Esre Riba, 18 times 10,000, 180,000, Shal Malachi Chavala, of these destructive Malachim, Yoitzin, they go out and they descend upon mankind, B'chol Echad Ve'echad, each one of these Malachim on their own, Yesh Le Rishis L'chabel Fnei Atzmai, they have full ability to wreak havoc and destruction. Now, Meikar initially have a shchichi kuliyayma. They were around all the time, every day. Perhaps it means every night. Zimna chada. What happened was, one time, Paga Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, the headmaster of the Sheidim, Agras bas Machlas, encountered the tzaddik Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Armalei, she told him, Ilav, the machras on Allah Barakiyah, if not for the fact that they announce about you in Shemayim, Hizaru, be careful. Don't get involved. Bechanina b'terasa. In Chanina, due to the fact that he's a tzaddik, bal masim tovim, u'b'terasa. And in addition, don't get entangled in his Torah. So for both those reasons, keep away from Chanina. If not for the fact that they warned us to keep away from you, sakantich, I would have placed you in sakana. Amar Allah. So Chanina responded, "Oh, that's good. It's good to know. Ichashivna barakia. If I'm really held in such high regard in Shamayim, I'm going to use my powers against you. Goyizer ani alayich. I pass a decree on you. Shalei tavuri b'yishalayim. You should never come into civilized, inhabited areas. Ever." Amrulay. She responded, No. Have rachmanas. Matusa minach, please. Shvakli rafcha put. Leave me a little space. Give me a little allowance. I have to do my job. Apparently, I have business to do, even in the Makam Yishuv. Okay, so he allowed her a bit. Shavakla, he allowed her Leili Shabbosais, V'leili Reviyos. Friday nights and Tuesday nights that she could be found in the Yishuv. Says in another story, Vesu Chada Zimra. There was another story that happened once. Pogabei Ba'abaye, Agras bas Machlas encountered Abaye. Merlei, she turned to him and said, Ilav, the Machras the Allah Barakiyah, for the fact that they announced regarding you, up in Shemayim, be careful. Hizaru ben Achmeni b'terase. Be careful. From Abaye, who was called Achmeni, be careful from him and from his Torah. Rashbam says his name was really Abaye, but he was a Yasam, as we know, and he was raised by Rabba bar Nachmeni. So Rabba, the son of Nachmeni, gave Abaye a name after his father. He called him Nachmeni. Sefer Yochsen has a different approach. He maintains that his real name was Nachmeni. But since Rabba, who took care of him, Rabba, who took care of his father, his name was Nachmeni, he didn't want to mention his father's name, and that's why he gave him a new name, Abaye, which is Roshei Tevis, the pasuk Asher B'cha Yerucham Yosem, to evoke mercy on the Yosem, Aleph Beis Yud Yud. In any case, she says, look, we're forewarned from entangling with you, so if not for that, Hava sakantich, I would have placed you in danger. Armaleis, Abaye responded in kind, Ichashivna b'rakia. Okay, if I'm so chashiv in Shemayim, Goyizrani alaychi, I am goyzer on you. Shalei tavoiri b'yishel loylam. You should never again come into an inhabited area. So this time he banished her completely from a Makam Yishuv. Says the really? They're not around. Hokachazina da'avra. We see sometimes that the shade is around. Amri, says the Gemara, Hanigas Yaisinino. The reason is as follows. They're really out of town. Because Yais are the alleyways. When the travel through the alleyways amongst the vineyards out of town, the Shamti Susya, the horses, the reference to the lower level, lower stature, Shadim, on which the higher Shadim ride. So the horses escape their jobs. Shamti Susya, they get away. Va'asu Dabrilu. So they send out a search party. They come to the town to fetch the horses. And that's why you'll see them sometimes, but really, primarily, they're going to be found strictly out of town. Okay, let's do a brief chazara. We learned about Persumei Nisa of the Arba Kais Shal Yain. We learned about Kavod Shabbos. We had many pieces of advice imparted by many Chachamim. We learned about the dangers of the Shadim, and finally how Abaye banished them from Makom Yishuv L'Olam. Hatzlacha Rabbi.